Guys, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm joining the studio with mixed martial arts fighter Tom Bennett. Tom, how are you?
I'm good, mate. It's a pleasure to be on. But before we go any further, I'd like to congratulate you and myself because this is the first interview I've done outside of being, present at fight shows.
Th Thank you. I wanted to ask if initially before doing the interview if you had done any other interviews previously before in the past because I wanted to just get a good feel of the kind of
Mm.
guest you'd be and just to
Right.
get more information about you. So I
Okay.
was kind of nervous to just make sure that I asked the right questions and I do
Yeah.
know enough about your background.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the first one I've done, as I've said, remotely. But I've done a few, post fights at shows and stuff like that. So hopefully I'm not too insufferable for you.
No, at all. Uh, so I think we'll start with the obvious. LFL 17.
Hmm.
You you did really you performed really well in the cage there against your opponent, and I looked everywhere for his name, Konstantinos Leo. God, I can't pronounce his
I'll leave it to
Leonido.
you because I'm gonna struggle just as much, mate. But yeah, yeah, it was a really good time. I had a lot of fun out there with LFL. It's a really nice, smoothly run show, and I was very keen to have my pro debut there. Um, God bless him because he was a short notice replacement for my initial opponent who pulled out short notice with a staph infection or something like that.
May I ask, what was the reason for? So your initial opponent, they did have there was a genuine reason as to why they had to pull out at the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
minute.
yeah, yeah. It was sincere. I don't think they necessarily went about it the right way. I think they might have left the cancellation till later than they had to. But yeah, it was legitimate.
But look, how do you feel? Because um, now turning pro, you started out with a win. Your
Mhm.
performance was really good in the cage there. You started out strongly, and I just want to ask about the injury as well. Um, th that happened in the. I think they said they had to stop the fight because of an injury.
Well they phrased it a bit oddly because the guy didn't he didn't come out for the second round because he said I broke his ribs. It's quite weird to phrase that as an, you know what I mean? It's kind of odd to phrase that
Yeah.
as an injury rather than just, that's a TKO via me breaking his ribs. So yeah, that was that. If you, I'm not sure if you watched it with the commentary, but they do say that on there, and he said it to me in the cage.
As this was your first professional fight, I mean, did you
Hmm.
feel that there was added extra pressure? Was there anything you felt you had to do differently in the lead up to this in terms of training, fight camp, nutrition?
Well, absolutely, it was definitely more pressure in regard to this is where the wins and losses really count. It's the paid ranks. Each performance is an immediate reflection on your own personal real estate, right? So I definitely wanted to stamp out a solid mark for myself. And I feel that I did a pretty good job of that. I hit the kid hard under separate circumstances, um, with a guy more willing to hang about. It probably would have looked a lot nicer on the older highlight reel to start off my career. Preparation wise, I had a really good camp for this, man. The weight was easy. The weight's always been quite easy for me, to be honest, to get down to 66. And thankfully, with my team headed by Stuart Austin, he's always able he's very able to curtail training and preparation exactly to suit myself, my style, and create a game plan regarding who I'm going to fight as well.
Can I talk? I do this with every athlete, in fact, anyone who's affiliated with combat sports as a whole. Can you talk a bit about your background and how you got into how you niched into mixed martial arts?
Yeah, yeah, it was a bit of a roundabout thing because when I was a kid, my dad's a karate teacher, right? So when I was a kid, that was the first my initial exposure to it. I didn't hang around for that long. I think I got like a purple belt or something like that, which isn't the same as in jiu-jitsu. You get that pretty quickly. But I I went into boxing because I'd always had an interest in mixed martial arts, and I thought I probably had to learn how to box before I do that. But upon getting into boxing, it totally took me away with it, and I've boxed competitively in the amateurs for about 10, 11 years, something like that. And I always kept up with MMA. I've always been a big MMA fan. And eventually, I wanted to get a strength and conditioning coach, and my friend put me in contact with a guy who was Stuart Austin. So we had a good relationship regarding sports at the time. He benefited me massively as my S&C coach, but we also got along very well. We spoke often, and he just kind of drip fed me with bits and pieces about MMA, and just convinced me to come to the gym. And eventually, I did. And at first, I was just hobbying it, and he was like, after a few months, he said, "You should have a fight. You should give it a try." And I was hesitant, but when someone I respect tells me I should do something, I'm not the kind to bottle out of it. So I did, and we just kind of hit the ground running from there.
You know, you do look like a well-mannered, well-spoken man. I mean, looking at you, there's another question I was going to ask you. You know, I think you do model as well
Yeah, I did.
sometimes.
Yeah, I did some bits and pieces. Yeah, yeah.
But what I was saying is that have you ever, because like, you know, you started this combat sports and especially started from karate at a very young age, have you ever had a situation whereby you've had to use your skills in public to defend yourself? Maybe someone thinks you are not the type to kind of, you know, stand up for yourself, and you kind of like you had to sh show them who that you're not the one to be messed with.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, when I was a lad, I've always been somewhat amicable. I think like I've typically gotten along with people, but I did fight a lot when I was younger in school. Yeah, but due to the nature of just my youth, I ended up at a school which had a real reputation for people fighting, and it lived up to it, man. It was a real growing experience, and it probably played a factor in me really pursuing combat sports the way that I have done. Um, yeah, yeah. Fuck, I kind of forgot the rest of your question there, mate. Sorry.
No, it's I was saying in real life, just if you're going from place to place, I think people probably now, as time goes on, now you've started well in your professional career as a mixed martial arts fighter, gradually be making a name for yourself as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've heard how some people, for some reason, in public, probably in the drunken night house, in the pub bar,
Yeah,
wherever it may be, they
yeah.
want to pick a fight with someone who they recognize off the TV or off the social media platform. I mean, has that ever happened to you?
Oh, yes, when I was younger and I did used to go out and boozy environments. And I'm from the south coast town of Bournemouth, which is a real club town, right? So there's always plenty of drunk, excited young men who like to go off. So I've had a few tear ups when I was younger, yeah, man. But fortunately for me, I'm undefeated on the cobbles. So despite the fact I haven't had an altercation in quite a while. Were it to happen, I would intend on maintaining that undefeated record.
Good. I like that a lot. Um, One question that did pop into that someone has asked me to pass on to you is
Mhm.
do you prefer fighting on the regional cards or the more mainstream global cards?
Well, when you say global, you mean, for example, at the LFL?
Well, yeah, I think LFL is going to be up
Yeah,
there as well.
because
There's only
that's my only exposure to fighting on the big, that's the biggest thing I've fought on. I've fought in Cage Warriors Academy and Fight Star and stuff like that. But again, that's all domestic. Um, Mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a really good time on the weekend at LFL. It was a very smoothly run thing, and you didn't feel like so much a pound of flesh on that show. I feel like they genuinely they carried themselves very well, and I feel it was reflected on my experience.
nice. The well, it's that was Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I mean,
That's
is
right.
there any comparisons that you kind of saw there that was different to, say, the fight crowd and on the home turf back here in the UK?
Again, coming from boxing, especially amateur boxing, which is very grassroots English, it has a very distinct national feeling to it, which is also the case with MMA as well in this country, right? It's just typically quite rowdy and quite spit and sawdust. Whereas I say in my experience of the weekend, the Dutch are a little bit more civilized. But that's one weekend I've had there. It could get a lot worse. I have no idea. Or maybe the more reputable characters just stay away from me in England. I'm not too sure.
Um, Something else that came in is that what's the biggest change? What has been the biggest change for you in your career,
Hmm.
training wise, since your first fight?
You know what? that first fight, which I believe on my topology is listed as a unanimous decision defeat. I'll have you know, it was actually a split decision, but and it was a bad one at that. It was a bad one at that. Anyway, we've all got excuses for losses, but that was my first one. And that was kind of Stuart talked me into it when I was really kind of 1 foot in, and I went there. I took part. I did get the better of the chap, no matter what the what's reflected in the decision, but I left that fight really understanding that the stuff I was trying in the gym and was working for me in the gym does work, and I have to treat it with a greater conviction. And that's just been my attitude ever since then. And to be honest, mate, the key part is I'm just throwing harder punches, man. This isn't boxing anymore. I'm wearing these tiny little gloves, and when I hit guys hard, if, there's always a spasm of fear that goes through them. So yeah, that's probably to quantify it. I'd say that's the most significant. I wouldn't say change, but just emphasis I put on things in training. It's just like I can hit guys, and when I hit them hard, I'll hurt them, and when I hurt them, I can keep a guy hurt. I've always been able to keep a guy hurt.
If not mixed martial arts or combat sports or even the modeling that you do as well,
Yeah,
what if you weren't doing these things, what else would you have done? Turned your hand to?
I'd either be in the Royal Marines or the Parachute Regiment, or I'd be a clown or something like that. I'm not too sure.
You don't you don't look this. I mean, you speak really really well. I mean, another question would have I was going to
Hmm.
ask you that for someone
Actually, let
like
me
if
interject. Interject. I'd be a
uh,
poet. I'd be a poet.
well, yes, okay. Uh, yeah, I can kind of see you being like a writer, a good writer, because
There we are.
your command of the English language seems very, very good.
I hope so. I hope so.
Um, you started strongly in professional wise in your fight career. Is it too early to ask? What are your future plans?
I mean, I want to take it as far as I can. I aim to get to the UFC and just give out as many hidings as I can, and as many as people want to see. Because there's no illusion to the way that I fight. And in my short career, amateur and professional, there's no I'm not trying to camouflage things in nuance. I'm coming there to have it out. You know what I mean? I'm putting my fists up. I'm saying, let's punch it out. I'm not trying to be too cute about it and do the things that It's not ballet when I fight. It's a tear up.
You do look like someone who is can be because we've got you model, so there's no doubt you will be a very marketable fighter. But I mean, there's the UFC, but there's also a lot of other big names who are on the market as well. There's the UFC, there's PFL, which is now swallowed Bellator, the one championship,
Mhm.
um, Cage Warriors. So, I mean, is it just the UFC, or are you tempted to kind of like test the market, if you will?
But yeah, that's a good question, man. Obviously, Cage Warriors always has the allure of being the foremost British promotion, right? But right now, uh, I'm aiming for the UFC. That's where my interests are. That's where my eyes are. And I'm fortunate enough to have guys at my gym with a wealth of experience who I have the benefits of walking on steps that they've already trodden. For example, I have Mario Pinto at my gym. He's a good pal of mine, but he's a great teammate also, and a very knowledgeable guy when it comes to coaching. And he's gone through the LFL to find his way in the UFC now, where he's really started to make a mark for himself. And I like to think that's the path I'm gonna try and follow.
Speaking of which, your gym, forgive me if I may have missed it. I've looked virtually everywhere, but what is the name of it? And can you talk a bit about the your coaches there who
Sure.
that you train with?
Sure. My gym is called Fight Zone. It's I actually forget the name of the road, but it's just off Bethnal Green. And the head MMA coach there is Stuart Austin, who's had a lengthy and extensive professional career, and he's beaten some solid names in his time and won plenty of titles while he's at it. He's if it wasn't for Stuart, I don't think I'd really be involved in MMA. I don't think I'd be competing. But it's his channeled investment in the guys that he's got at his gym, and how he through his personality and his coaching skill allows us to develop. And it's something that you notice quickly. And that's why I think everyone at the gym's got a lot of reverence for him. Not just because he's a big hard bastard, right? But because he's a very good man as well and an excellent coach.
It sounds like a almost like a, let me say, in terms of combat sports, he's almost like been like, let's say, a father figure to you.
Oh, absolutely, man. I definitely have I feel that I've got a kind of brotherly relationship with Stuart. He probably wouldn't say the same thing, but that's fine. It can be one-way traffic. That's all right by me. Um, yeah, yeah, he's a really solid bloke, and he's not running a mega gym. He's not got a million guys in there. I joke around with him. I say he's got a boutique stable, right? Because he's got a few fighters, but everyone is producing the goods right now. Everyone's competent, everyone's capable, and that's the result of his coaching for sure.
I hope you don't mind if I kind of, let me say, get your opinion on some upcoming major fights.
Yeah, go on, mate.
So UFC on ESPN, 66, the Ian Gary fight versus Carlos Prates. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. Who have you got for that one?
Honestly, mate, I didn't know that was happening until about an hour ago. It's a good fight though.
Mm.
Carlos Prestes is a real mean guy, but I do think as a mixed martial artist. He might not be as devastating and as frightening on camera, but I think Ian Gary's a better and more well-rounded fighter overall, and I think that should carry him through the day. And I'd say he's fought slightly better competition as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Prentice just rocked his world. You know what I mean? It's one of those fights.
I think Ian Gary probably gave a quite a, let's say, a what's the word I can use? Quite a well, it a prediction that aged well in terms of the last UFC fight with Michael Chandler and
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Yeah. The next on the co-main event, Anthony Smith versus Zhang Yang. And Anthony Smith, I think he said he was quite. This is going to be his retirement fight, and I think he did say in an interview that he was quite shocked that that's the opponent that they gave him. He
I
says
don't
so.
know who Zhang Yingyang is. Is he good?
I know, yes, Chinese mixed martial arts fighter.
Hmm.
Um, mm, okay. I probably should have asked you that about that before the interview. Um, but okay, no, that's
Well,
my
who do you
fault.
think? Who do you think's gonna win?
Mm, uh, uh, I think probably I'll go with Zhang.
Fuck it, man.
Uh,
I agree with you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, okay, who for yourself, and for any sport, any discipline, because I think in terms of combat sports, who would you like as a dream opponent and what venue?
For me,
That's it, yes.
hmm, dream opponent for me, right? Let's say, oh man, that's a good question. Dream opponent for me in what venue? Well, venue, it's got to be Madison Square Garden, right? But it's got to be, let's say the 1940s and 1950s. People can still smoke inside, and the pictures are all on film, so it has that evil, eerie kind of look to it. You know what I mean? That weird, mythical fighter
Mhm.
mystique that exists in all those old fights. And I'd say give me. I'll fight Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis in a boxing match there. But if it's MMA, again, same circumstances. A cage in the 50s, cigarette smoke everywhere, smells horrible. I'd probably fight. I'll fight Cain Velasquez.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah,
this,
preferably when he's got his back turned to me, or something like that. You know.
what's the you wanted the era to be 1950s with people being allowed to smoke within the ring. Is it because the smell for you makes it feel more like this is a proper
There's
fight?
something kind of malicious about that. There's something seedy about it, isn't there? But
Mm.
also, it's just a nostalgia. You know, when you watch those old fights, there's a real magic to it, man.
I know it's quite early because we just had your recent fight at LFL, but
Mm.
can I ask, has another fight been, or is another fight already in the works?
Well, there's the upcoming LFL in June. I believe it's the 13th of June. I'd like to get back on that. I'd like to keep the wheels turning while the oil's hot, you know. Um, My initial opponent who pulled out of the last fight commented on one of my posts. I've never spoken to this man in my life that he's healthy and he wants to go for it. And I think that's rude. I think that's quite an ill-mannered thing to do. So if he's up for it and if the LFL have the conviction in him to put it together again, I'll teach him manners at the end of my fist, you know?
Hmm. Um, I should have asked you earlier. Your trajectory, your aim is to reach the UFC, and I said
For
that
sure.
you look like someone who you're very marketable. You have the face, of course, as well as the skill set for the cage. What do you think about the trash talking? Are you happy to get involved in that? Something you think you can pull
Yeah, well,
off?
it's something that when I was younger, I'd have been a bit more flirtatious with it. But now, as I'm older, I'm more matter of fact. But I'm not a sucker, and if I don't like someone, I'm gonna let them know, and I'm gonna let them know exactly. You know, I'm not gonna be a I save my talking for the ring kind of guy, but I'll let them know as a matter of fact what I think of a character of my opponent if it's less than savory. But and then I will let them know in the cage. You know.
Last but by no means least, any shout outs you'd like to give?
Um. Well, foremost is God, of course. Um, and my family, my mother and father, always been very supporting. And you know, besides that, nothing I haven't already said. Stuart Austin, he's the man, looks after me. Hope he continues to do so. Uh, Mario Pinto, Shah Kamali, and everyone else down at Fight Zone, and my other coaches as well. I've got Nico Janik who's making a grappler out of me. I've got Archie Saunders who keeps my boxing sharp. Rowan Katsu who's expanding my mixed martial arts striking overall, and Steve Waters who's my boxing coach in the amateurs, who I also work with boxing now, and I'm thankful to maintain that connection.
And if there's any other people, including that the list he just gave, now please send it to me. I'll make sure I tag them, excuse me, in the description here on YouTube and also on Instagram when I upload the episode.
Cool. Wonderful,
Also,
mate. Thanks very much for giving me your time, Mike.
Tom, thank you very much for giving me your time, and I'm very once again really glad and very grateful you came on the show. And once again, congratulations on your fight at LFL 17.
Thanks, brother. Thank you for listening.
Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you've watched to the end, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to leave a like. You can also catch the audio versions of this episode on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Tom, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Take care.